Hello out there, and today's video is a response to an open tag from Paddy's potato peelers. And this is an interesting one, guys. It is all about locking mechanisms. What's your favorite? What are some really unique ones that you've come across? What are some models that you have or have seen that just have a really unique kind of locking mechanism? So we're going to go through all that today. Anyone who's interested in getting involved in this tag, I highly encourage that you do it because these are great things. It's always a very cool way to get the community together, and even if we have different opinions about things, just start a discussion and see how everybody feels about a certain topic. So thank you, Paddy, for doing this. I will link to his video down below so you can check it out. And if you do make a video, tag him and let him know so he can add it to the collection. And even if you don't make a video and you want to comment down below what your favorite locking mechanisms are or what models you've come across that have just something very special, please do that so I can check it out here, and I'll check out the comments on his video as well for all the responses over there. Alright guys, but getting into it, we're going to start with just a couple of my favorites, and then we'll go through a few of the unique stuff that I currently have. Alright, but starting with my favorite, no surprise here, this is really the be-all end-all locking mechanism when it comes to my preference. It's the axis lock. Most of you know that I very much like my Benchmades, and the epitome of what Benchmade is, at least in my mind, centers around the axis lock. It's what makes them special and unique, and it is not just that. I mean, it's an excellent locking mechanism for use, very strong and sturdy and secure, but also just excellent when it comes to fidget capability, great knives to play with, and yeah, to actuate, open and close. Ambidextrous if you're a lefty, so very cool there. But the allure for this locking mechanism is definitely still there for me. Hasn't gone away, and I'm also very curious to see how this mechanism continues to evolve now that Benchmade no longer has a patent for it. So this one is pretty much fair game, and we've already seen Mastrop and TJ Schwartz develop the Perpetua, and I'm sure there will be other models using it in the future, so looking forward to that. Right, my next favorite is the button lock or plunge lock. A lot of people, I'm sure, were expecting to hear me talk about compression locks, and I do really like those, but button locks, there's just something about them. These things are just super cool. They still have that really good fidget factor. They're easy to open and close. Nothing too crazy fancy about them. They're a lot easier to take apart and maintain than you would think. And every knife I've ever had with one has just been super cool. So whether it's this Tangram or also, I've had a real steel with a button lock. The Kershaw Dimension had an assisted button lock, which is pretty cool. Just good knives and a fun locking mechanism that I don't think is utilized often enough in the community. Just a very neat one. Paddy had one of his own, actually, in his video. A CRKT Brian tie design. So very cool. All right, but those are my two favorites. Now we're going to get into a couple somewhat unique things that are a little bit different, and we're going to save this guy for last because it's probably the coolest out of the bunch. But we'll start with this one right here, and this is a Benchmade red class knife. This is called the Ambush, and if you've ever seen the Ambush, you probably can tell already that this is not a typical one because the blade is just very oddly shaped because I got this knife used and I had to have it professionally sharpened and have the serrations removed because it was so beat up. So, the blade shouldn't really look like this, but we are talking about the locking mechanism, and that is what is unique about this knife. This is called a rolling lock, and so the way that this mechanism works is you pull back this button here, and you can see there's a big pin that has a hole in it, and when you rotate it forward, it releases the blade tang. So pretty interesting there. It's run on one omega spring, and you can actually see that in there. So not all that dissimilar from an axis lock, but it's something that Benchmade used on this model, and I don't really know where else they used it. So yeah, just a cool and unique piece of history on the Benchmade Ambush, red class. All right. The next unique one is called the Kershaw Thistle. You've probably seen this on the channel a couple times if you've been involved and paid attention. And this is one of my favorite budget knives, just period. I really like this knife. I've been a fan of the model for a long time, but it does have something a little bit different when it comes to how it locks up. Because it is a liner lock, and you can see that right there. But the liner is recessed down into the scales, and the way that you disengage it is by pushing this button. And when you push the button, the other liner comes across and pushes the first liner out of the way so the blade can be freed. Release the button, it opens everything up, and the blade can be closed. So really different, very unique. I like it a lot. It's perfectly functional. It locks up really well. I think the big appeal and one of the selling points when this knife came out was that just using the button like this, you could like open and close the knife very easily with gloves on, and you never had to get your finger in the path of the blade as you closed it. So, you know, maybe someone who's into traditional knives would like something like that. Me personally, I thought this was an eyesore at first, but to be honest with you, I got over that really quickly, and I just really like the knife. And these go for like 15 bucks or less in most places, so definitely a steal and a great budget offering from Kershaw. So, yeah, a little bit odd. All right, but now let's get to what I think is the coolest knife that I have when it comes to the locking mechanism. And you'll see in Paddy's video, and you know, in any of these videos, if you're looking for really unique locking mechanisms, CRKT has done a lot of them in the past. That's sort of one of their like big specialties, is they take some chances when it comes to design, and they do things that are just a little bit different, whether it's like the fulcrum or some of those button locks, or just some of the things that they've had in the past just are very different. And this is a perfect example of that. This is called the Glide Lock. This is the Glide Lock 2 actually. And if you look at it, there's no clip, but you also don't see how are you supposed to open the knife. Very odd, right? Check this out. So this tab goes forward, and then you rotate it, pull it back to lock it into place. Isn't that something? And to be honest with you, just looking at the knife itself, it is extremely classy. It's just a beautiful design. I'm really a big fan of it. I never use this or carry it, but just how unique it is, and I don't want to say that it's rare, but you just don't see people with this knife very often, so I have no urge to get rid of it. And so to disengage, you can see, push forward, and then just close the knife. And then push down. So when it comes to using the knife in security, it is not the most secure knife because you do have a stop pin, as you can see in here. So that keeps the blade from going any further back. But the only thing that's keeping it from closing is this little like plasticky tab right here that this piece pushes into. So there is a little movement, a little bit of wiggle, and there's really not much that can be done about that. But when it comes to a classy gents piece and something that's super streamlined, you know, and extremely lightweight, this is a great suit pocket knife. It's exactly what you should use it for. And the other thing I like about it is that the design that's on these scales is completely unique to every one of them. So they all look just a little bit different. So really neat knife. Definitely when it comes to the locking mechanisms that I have left, the showpiece of unique locking mechanisms. You know, over the years I've had a number of really cool CRKTs that did have, you know, some different kinds of mechanisms and that were very innovative, but a lot of those have just moved on to other people. But this one stays, and it's going to continue to stay. So, yeah, that is probably the most unique one that I currently have. Paddy had some really unique ones too, so definitely check out his video. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what other people submit to this tag, because it's just a very cool one. And yeah, look forward to it. But anyway, guys, any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, you know where to reach me. Look forward to hearing from you. I'll talk with you soon. Have a good one.